Welcome back, everybody. This is Pucks from the Pine Tree Pod. I'm your host, Benjamin Kennedy, coming to you for a second time this Sunday evening with my season preview for the New York Rangers. Obviously, President's Trophy winning team a year ago, one of the most popular teams in the league. So let's get after it. Starting with head coach, longtime head coach Peter Laviolette. This man has coached in 1,512 regular season games with an 807, 526, 25, and 154 record. That gives him a 593 winning percentage. Playoffs, that's 88 and 82 career record there as well. So a +6 in the playoff total. Stanley Cup champion, of course, back in 05, 06 with the Carolina Hurricane, and has also made it to the Stanley Cup back in 09, 010 with Philadelphia, and in 16, 17 with Nashville. Longtime head coach, tons of success. I think he's been just a very, very good fit there after that first season in New York. I was curious about the fit coming out of Washington, but he seems like he's fit in there very, very well. Of course, he is a Franklin, Massachusetts native, played a number of years with the AHL Providence Bruins, so he has some strong ties here to New England and to that Boston area. Salary cap for the team as of tonight, and this number will most likely change over the next day or two, but they have $623,476 available under the cap, and that leaves them with 21 out of 23 active roster spots filled. So, yes, there'll be some maneuvering. There'll be some players sent down to the AHL. They'll be cap compliant come the start of the season. Not to worry. Not to worry. First round this year, they had pick number 30. They took defenseman EJ Emery. Not signed. He is going to be playing at the University of North Dakota this season. So we'll see. May play there a year or two before he signs and gets in the organization. But um, a good, good overall prospect, a long-term prospect, of course, for the Rangers. So diving back into last season, of course, they were 55, 23, and 4, 114 points, and they do get that President's Trophy that some people might say the cursed President's Trophy. Finishing first in the Metro, finishing first overall in the regular year. So just a heck of a season for them. Uh, Lost, of course, in the Eastern Conference Finals to the Florida Panthers this past season, so they're going to be looking to right that ship and make that next step this coming season. When we look at the team stats, goals for, they were 3.39, seventh in the league. Goals against, 2.76. We'll talk about goaltending, of course. They were plus 52 in that goal differential for the season. We all know that the specialty teams for the Rangers were just outstanding and a big, big part of their success. Power play, they were at a 26.4%, good for third in the league, and their PK was just as good at 84.5%, also third in the league. So, not a team you wanted to deal with on any sort of power play or penalty kill. You just you want to play them 5-on-5, and even then, they could be obviously still tough to play against. Face-off dot, they were seventh in the league at a 52.3%, so quite good there on the dot as well. Looking at the core skaters, of course, so many of these guys are household names at this point in the NHL, starting with forward Artemi Panarin, the bread man, 82 games played, 49 goals, 71 assists, 120 points. If it wasn't for that guy down in Tampa and that guy out in Colorado and maybe even that guy out in Edmonton, I think Panarin would have been getting a lot more consideration for the Hart Trophy. But absolutely just dynamite year for him. Center Vincent Trocheck, 82 games played for him, 25 goals, 52 assists for 77 points. Forward Chris Kreider, 82 games played for him. You've seen a theme here, right? 82 games, 82 games, 82 games. 39 goals, 36 assists, 475 points for him. Adam Fox, 72 games. So they've missed a few this year. But Fox had 17 goals, 56 assists for 73 points. Uh, well known as one of the best defensemen in the league. Center Mika Zibanejad played in 81 games, 26 goals, 46 assists, and 72 points for him. And former number one overall draft pick back in 2020, forward Alexis Lafreniere, 82 games for him. Breakout year for him, 28 goals, 29 assists for 57 points. Still only 22 years old. I think we forget that point with him, but easily his best year. And I think if you're a Ranger fan, you should be awfully excited about what he did a year ago, and can he build off this? Can he reach that 30, 35, 40 goal mark when you're overall number one pick? Obviously, there's some expectations there, and he's starting to fulfill them. Give the kid a chance, right? Keep giving him a chance. Moving on to goaltending. Obviously, you've got one of the very best, if not the best goaltender in the league, and Igor Shesterkin. 55 games for him, had a 36, 17, and 2 record, 2.58 goals against, and a 913 save percentage. And as good as those numbers sound, it was actually a little down for him, this past season. Uh, he's just tremendous. It's scary when you play the Rangers because when you get down a goal or if you get down 2 goals and you see Igor in net, you're thinking, "Oh, okay, how how are we supposed to navigate this? How are we supposed to get 1 by him? And if we're down 2, how are we getting 2 by him? How are we getting 3 by him?" Like, it's just he's very, very tough to play against. He, just can make the job easy, for this Rangers team. He is absolutely one of the very, very best. They also had our future Hall of Famer, Jonathan Quick, as a backup last year. Quickie got into 27 games and an 18-6 and 2 record, 2.62 goals against, and a 911 save percentage. He's 38 years old. When they signed him, I was a little surprised because coming out of Vegas, I just thought he was toast. I thought he was completely done. Yes, future Hall of Famer, but it just seemed like the game had passed him by. It seemed like his body wasn't quite there. And I was kind of like, New York, what are you doing? Why are you signing this guy? Like, there's other seasoned veterans out there you can go grab, but clearly they saw something that uh, truth be told, a lot of people didn't, thinking that he was just done. And what a rebound. I mean, it's not going to be the reason he gets into the Hall of Fame, but it's just another layer to Jonathan Quick's story. All the success over all those years out in LA, and for him to rebound and be part of this organization and seeing how well he did, how, they got to the Eastern Conference final. Man, if they can find a way to get a Stanley Cup with Quickie there as a backup, I mean, you want to talk about bookending your career. That's the way to do it. But obviously happy when you can see a guy like him rebound and rejuvenate kind of this tail end of his career. And I think if you're a Ranger fan, you're hoping he can do it again. We'll talk a little bit more about that in just a second. Key additions, they really didn't make a ton of household changes to this organization. They did bring in forward Sam Carrick. They did make a trade, getting forward Riley Smith out of I think it was Pittsburgh, right? Of course, he was in Vegas. I think he was in Pittsburgh a year ago. Correct me if I'm wrong on that one. So not a ton of movement there. They do lose Barclay Goodrow. They do lose defenseman Eric Gustafson, center Alex Wenberg, and for Jack Roslovic, all out the door. So essentially, very much the same team coming back from year to year. Now, one player that did not move on, that was widely rumored to be moving on, was Jacob Trouba, captain, defenseman of this team. Jacob Trouba, all sorts of noise and smoke around this, going through parts of the spring and summer. It looks like all water under the bridge at this point. He's there. He's not moving. He, enacted his no trade clause. Of course, you can look up his story. His wife is in the medical field, working there in New York City, and big part of the reason why he wanted to be in New York was to, partly for her career too. So, it's got the no movement clause. He enacted it. It's right. And it seems like you're not hearing anything about this at this point, at least nationally. You're not. I'm not sure if in the New York media you're hearing much about it, but it seems like it's been addressed. Jacob's fine. Everybody's fine. You hope this doesn't rear its head where there's any sort of hurt feelings. Doesn't seem like there is. I don't really think there is. But at the time, it was a little bit of a story. Where does he end up? Clearly, last year he didn't look the same. He didn't look like the same kind of productive player that he has been. So we'll be curious to see how it goes this year. And if he starts to struggle and is more of a liability on the ice, you wonder what the fan reaction will be to that. Because there's one thing we know about New York fans: they they have their opinions and they don't mind telling you about it. They really don't. And so you wonder if that doesn't become an issue. Like, you know, didn't, he uses no movement clause to stay there, and if he starts to struggle, does that mean, oh, he's screwing the Rangers over? I mean, you can see all the different narratives that can be out there, but um, longtime veteran guy, I feel like he'll be fine. I don't think he's the player. Obviously, he was 5 years ago, but who is right at this point? Moving on to goaltending, let's talk about Jonathan Quick just yet again. Can he do this again? I really looked at the value of Jonathan Quick a year ago is giving Igor a number of additional days off. When you look at the numbers that Igor did play in the 55 games, but that could have very easily been 65 if he didn't have a good backup. And Igor's the kind of guy I think that can handle that kind of workload. But you'd rather not, right? You'd rather have him fresh and ready to go for a long, kind of 2 month run at the end of the year. Having that reliable backup is so critical. Uh, Jonathan Quick's another year older. Can he do it again? Can he do it again? I think it's going to be something worth watching. If he starts to struggle, who do they have behind him? Or is it just going to be a matter of Igor playing 65, 70 games this year? I'm sure the Rangers would rather not. And to have a repeat of last year net to go a long way for this organization. So, of course, they lose in that Eastern Conference final a year ago. We know that. And we know a lot of the narrative was around some of their plays kind of disappearing and falling off, especially in that last round. So, I wanted to just take a kind of a quick dive into some of those key names. What were their playoff numbers a year ago? And what are their career playoff numbers? Is this narrative actually accurate? And I know we're looking at numbers. There's certain things in a game you might be able to have a couple assists in a game, but you know maybe you really aren't really helping your team out that much in a certain game that you lose or something. So I know there's context that maybe we don't pick up in some of these numbers, but uh, without going through and watching every single playoff game from a year ago, we're going to just take a quick look at their numbers and see kind of what they tell us. So starting with Panarin, of course, 16 games a year ago, he was 5 goals, 10 assists, 15 points, so almost a point per game. And the plus minus was a -2. I'm going to use plus minus. I know it's kind of an archaic stat, but I'm going to throw it out there. In his career, he has 73 playoff games, has 21 goals, 40 assists for 61 points, is a -18. So that might be tells you a little bit more. -18 through 73 games. That's a little bit more of a picture to look at there. Um, again, this past year he was almost a point per game, but I think you did want to see more goal scoring out of him if you're a Rangers fan in some of those key games. I think that's probably a fair assessment, a fair statement. Trocheck, 16 games, of course, in the playoffs a year ago, 8 goals, 12 assists for 20 points, of over a point per game, and a +3. In 56 career playoff games, he has 17 goals, 20 assists for 37 points, and a +14. Kreider, another one that kind of drew some ire, I think, last year through the playoffs. 16 games for him, 8 goals, 4 assists for 12 points. So 12 points in 16 games, so -3. -3 for him. Another one that just, again, yeah, had the 8 goals, but you just want to see a little bit more there against that in that Florida series. 123 games though for him in the playoffs. In his career, 48 goals, 28 assists for 76 points as a -11. Zibanejad for 16 games for him, 3 goals, 13 assists for 16 points. So he was a point per game last season, +1 in the plus minus. But again, it's that same thing. You want to see more goals, right? Yeah, the assists are nice, but um, only 3 goals through 16 games, and you're that important of a player to this team. I think that's another guy that you hope will score more when you get into that playoff round. And for Mika, he has 74 career playoff games, 19 goals, 44 assists for 63 points, and was a dead even on the plus minus. We will take a look at Lafreniere, of course, much younger player. 16 games last year for him, of course, in the playoffs, 8, 6, and 14. So 8 goals, 6 assists for 14 points. So not awful there. Almost a point per game, and it was a +2. In his career, 43 career games. Again, younger guy, 10 goals, 13 assists for 23 points, and is a -1. So, quite a ways down at, not close to a more like a half a point per game, but still only that 22 years old. And Adam Fox, through the 16 games last year in the playoffs, had just the 8 assists and was a +5 through 46 games for him, 5 goals, 34 assists, 39 points, and a +7. So really, I mean, I'm not going to necessarily answer the question here, but are those numbers that are fair for a playoff run? Panarin 15 points to 16 games, Trocheck 20 in 16, Kreider 12 in 16, the Badger 16 for 16. Are those fair? Or is there some context we're not seeing? Obviously, they lose to Florida, and I think there was some goal scoring that just seemed to dry up for them. So I guess going through this, you look at this coming season. Is this a Stanley Cup or bust year for the Rangers? When you look at some of that core, a lot of them are over 30 now. Uh, is this it for them? Is it it? You know, I don't necessarily think it's it. I mean, I think they probably have, a couple more years of a window. But, you don't want to wait around too much longer when you have this kind of team assembled, when you have that kind of goaltender, you have an emerging Lafreniere. Of course, you got your heavy Matt Remke out there just throwing his weight around and being physical and all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, I fully expect this team to be right back at the top of the East this year. I do think they're loaded. I think part of why they don't make a lot of moves in the offseason is they were fairly loaded. How are you going to improve the team, really, especially in a salary cap league? So I think they're right back there at the top of the Metro. Who knows? Maybe they get the President's Trophy again this year. That wouldn't shock me. I mean, with the goaltending they have, that would not shock me at all. I do think that they might have to worry a little bit about New Jersey in the division. And that Atlantic division, of course, is fairly stacked as well. So can they come out of the East? I think they'll certainly be a favorite. Of course, a lot of the pundits are picking them to come out of the East this year. Again, one of those teams that's been right around it the last couple of years. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But certainly a fun team a year ago, a hard team to play against, and will be, I think, a lot of fun again this season. So that's what we have for the New York Rangers. Tomorrow, I will be releasing my preview for the Edmonton Oilers and for the Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers. And I will officially have all 32 previews done before the actual, well, I say the actual season start. I know we've already started in Prague, but before Tuesday. It's always been my goal, and I think we're gonna do it. I think we're actually gonna do it. So, anyway, guys, thank you so much for all your support. For you Ranger fans up there, let me know what your thoughts are on this team. Are we fair to question some of these playoff performances from this core? What do you guys expect out of your goaltending this year? And what sort of moves do you make as you get to the trade deadline, assuming you're going to be right in the hunt again? What do you want to see, in terms of depth added to this team? Would love to hear from you Rangers fans out there. So again, thank you so much for that support. If you like what you're hearing, please don't forget to hit like and subscribe down below. And until next time, be kind, show love, and God bless.